We saved the best for last, ladies and gentlemen. On the eve of lockdown, less than 48 hours away, we've got arguably one of the all-time GOATs in the state of Tennessee when it comes to the yard, the underground, and everything else in between. This man's resume speaks for itself. He is the only Grand Slam winner in Resurrection Wrestling history. He is one of the men that put this sport on the map, and especially Resurrection Wrestling. I think about everything this man has done from the early days of Brady Championship Wrestling to where we are now with a huge show ahead in lockdown. But in the current event, there is a lot to talk about with our guest tonight because if you saw the last episode of Resurrection Wrestling Elevation episode 33, he certainly lost the prize that meant most to him. And that wild beast took him down to the point where we don't even know what kind of state of mind he's going to be. And I've said it time and time again. Why is he even showing up this Saturday? He's going to tell us why he's going to show up because he has an open challenge. And we're going to talk all about that plus everything else in between when it comes to Resurrection Wrestling. Our guest here needs no further introduction because so many other people here in Resurrection Wrestling have gotten that introduction, and many of the people he's even squared off in the ring have gotten. It is time to bring him on Thursday night, less than 48 hours away from lockdown, to give him that steel cage-like introduction that certainly I am sure everybody in the locker room is waiting for. So let's get right to it. So with what do we do here? Run the sport, your boy. Over the road, number one. Bravo Sports Show. They call him, simply put, the only Grand Slam winner in Resurrection Wrestling history. He is from West Memphis, Arkansas. West Memphis Kid. My friend, how are you?
I'm doing good tonight. How are you doing yourself, sir?
Ask me after the show, and my voice is probably even more rough than it is currently, but I've done about 130 plus of these in over 100 days, so that's just kind of part of the course. But obviously, it is an absolute honor. I know this is technically the second time you've been on Sportswire Radio, but to me, it's really the first time because you basically did a cameo and kind of set the tables for us on these last couple of months in covering Resurrection Wrestling, and what an honor it has been to obviously get a chance to know so many people in the company. Obviously yourself, thank you so much for obviously being a huge part of that. But for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters here, Ronnie, Brady, you are certainly our OG of anarchy and greatness. We have to talk about, though, what went through your mind in announcing this Saturday night at Lockdown that you're having an open challenge, and tell us why and what can we expect?
So my knee's not 100%. Not even close. I was carried out of the ring. Something just didn't feel right after the match. Beast Adrian Prince threw me against a brick wall afterwards. I don't know if I'm actually 100%. And I don't know if the doctors are going to clear me. Lord hopes that they will. And then I'm going to step out in the ring and I'm going to do what I do best, which is outwork everyone and be the greatest professional wrestler. The assistant GM came to me with the idea of, do I want to not lose my shot? I always have my rematch. But did I want to pass the opportunity off to someone else? And I couldn't think of anyone better than the first student I ever took under my wing, Dustin Alexander. When we first started Resurrection, he was in the Chaos Society with me. And I said, if anybody's going to do it, Beast has been poking his nose in Dustin Alexander's business. We might as well put them two.
We saw what happened a few weeks ago. I mean, I'm surprised he's even going to show up to this match.
I think it's gonna be a blockbuster. Those two, like the Beast Adrian Prince, is a whole nother animal. It's a
Oh
completely
my God,
different
what he's
system.
done, and you've seen it firsthand. I mean, I'm certainly
Absolutely, I've watched him grow his entire career here from when he was on one side to the other. He does some phenomenal work. I'll respect anyone that deserves respect. He beat me, not fair and square, but he beat me. He's the champ, so he's got the target on his back, and now it's up to Dustin Alexander to try to take it off of him.
okay. So from afar, obviously it's a title versus title match, and I want to come back to you in a second. So safe to say then you're rooting for the machine, Dustin Alexander, to walk away
Absolutely.
with that championship, and tell us why.
Absolutely. Because Dustin has worked his ass off in Resurrection. He was the longest reigning national champion until beaten by Adrian Prince. Then he went and had that phenomenal match with Mac 10 and Jimmy
Oh,
Controversy where he won the hardcore title.
he pinned Jimmy freaking Controversy.
Yeah, he pinned Jimmy Controversy in like a big moment. And he had his moment and his star making moment there.
And
And
just wrestled Russell Cooper, who won the TBW World Title. I mean, on the same
absolutely.
show,
He's
and
he's
he's had some
faced
big wins. You know, Gage Flair, Atomic Titan. He's been in the ring with. I mean, Dustin Alexander. We had him on a few weeks ago. He's like a big time player now.
Yeah, he's earned his spot. He's earned his spot in the main event. Like I've always said, like I'm gonna hold on to my starlight for as long as I can. But once people start passing me, I'm just gonna step back and go do what I need to do. Whether it be go work feuds in another division because we're division based here in Resurrection. I could
Yep.
always move down to the national division or go try another stint at the hardcore, but that's not really my scene. I'm not a hardcore guy. I wrestle. I'm a
Yeah, I don't
wrestler.
see you. With all due respect, you know we love you here at Sportswire. I don't quite see you in the lane of Jimmy Controversy, Mikey Anarchy, and let's say Mac 10. I just don't see you in that lane. With all due respect.
Absolutely not. Like maybe if you'd have talked to Ronnie Brady, 10, 11
In the
years
Brady
ago
Championship
in Brady
Wrestling days,
Championship
sure.
Wrestling, yeah,
We
I
were
was doing
doing light
crazy stuff.
tubes and we were outside. Yeah, okay, maybe then. But now I think,
Now
you
it's a whole
know,
nother. As I've grown in my career, I've decided the hardcore stuff isn't for me. No, no, no disrespect to any hardcore wrestlers. The work they do is great. The only one that I don't acknowledge, as you have seen on previous episodes, how I like to every time Atomic Titan's on the screen here, I like to make sure that everyone knows that I know
well, you
guys with more hardcore in their pinky finger than he has in
it's
his whole
funny you
body.
said that. And I'm going to talk about your open challenge. But I guess since you kind of poked the tiger, that, Atomic Titan, we call him a Hollywood Titan here. He was on Sportswire last week. You pretty much referenced that. And we've called him our hardcore king. And he's also, like you, a Grand Slam winner. And he's also, like you, the only Grand Slam winner in TBW history. But so I guess then you don't think too much of Atomic Titan. And compared to the likes of a Jimmy Controversy, we're going to see this Saturday, Mac 10, Mikey Anarchy, Hardcore, we've seen who we've covered here in the TF crew. We're going to have Gabe Sayers on Sunday night and Angel Santiago, all those guys who work in XPW, GTS, Pro Wrestling Venom. So you're not too impressed when it comes to Atomic Titan and those guys.
I've seen a ton of hardcore guys in my career. I've watched a ton of guys that can out hardcore anyone. I mean, I've been wrestling Mac 10 since the dawn of time. It seems like. So
I
like
did see that,
he
actually. I have
he
to say,
hasn't got he
check
hasn't
that.
gotten there yet. He's got to beat somebody like a Mac 10, like a Jimmy Controversy. He's got to beat somebody like that to truly and to impress me enough to where I could acknowledge him as the hardcore king like he so pleases. Because I'll give respect where respect is due. But until he's proven that he's on that level, it's only time will tell. Like he's still got plenty of time ahead of him. If he can keep his head on straight and do the work, I don't see why he couldn't be talked in the same name as all those guys.
So you're saying, with all due respect to them, the Grim Reaper, Joe Anderson, and Jacob Young and TBW, not too impressed with compared to
Oh no,
the
no,
heavy
Joe
hitters.
Anderson, he came here
Oh, I know. We've seen him in
and he
Resurrection,
wrestled
absolutely.
Mac
And
10.
he was a
He
world champion in
yeah,
TBW. So, I mean,
he,
I know
I
Joe
mean, like
Anderson.
Joe Anderson's a great wrestler. He's really good at hardcore. It's just Atomic Titan to me was just a wrestler. He wasn't a hardcore
Yeah,
guy,
no, he
and
was
he
a
kind of
great.
just like he kind of stepped out of his comfort zone, challenging Joe Anderson and the Black Fox, the more established hardcore guys in the company.
Right.
And
But
now
I
he
think,
gets one, maybe two, two big hardcore wins, and wants to start gallivanting around calling himself the Hardcore King.
well, I mean, obviously, I'll let Mr. Titan, no doubt, answer those questions. And there's also a guy who's coming on here tomorrow night, Omen Black, who's established himself all over the scene in XCW and the IMF and
Absolutely.
ROW. And he's also called himself a hardcore god, and he still wants a piece of Titan himself. So I'm going to come back to Titan for sure in a little while. So Alexander and Black, you're watching that match with bated breath. But let me ask this question. I want to come back to your open challenge and sort of set the tables first. You have the injury. We spoke a lot about what happened at the end of Elevation after you lost the match, where you were, beaten senselessly. You were beaten to a bloody pulp, and even when guys came out to help you out, even an old foe, Cameron Cage helped out, and Dustin Alexander, everybody else that was out there to help you, you still had a number done on you from Adrian Prince. So I ask you kind of what I've been saying throughout Resurrection Month here on Sportswire Radio. Why even have this open challenge, and why even show up and just rest the knee 100% and then wait till next month and see what happens between Alexander and Prince? Tell us why you want to still have the challenge.
Since the beginning of my career, I've never let anyone tell me that I couldn't do this. I'm in the business of proving people wrong. And I think Ronnie Brady at 70% can still outwork anybody that's going to step into the ring. I want to be at 100% when I face the Beast Adrian Prince or a Dustin Alexander, world title contenders. But when it's just, I need to stoke the fire and I need to keep myself from getting rusty because of this injury. There's no point in not going out there and challenging somebody and then proving that even Ronnie Brady at 70% can still work and still out wrestle just about anybody.
Okay, fair enough. And obviously, if you want to watch the show, I actually, before I get to some comments, have the poster here because somebody there, a birdie, actually gave us the new poster. I feel like this is like the third or fourth poster like we had.
We have done several iterations because dates changed and
dates
venue
change and
locations
things we don't
changed.
even want to talk about, but this is the best one yet. As I always say, the best is yet to come. And this is the best one here. And get this, we've got an even earlier start time, 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time was the first match. The doors open at 1 o'clock. It's going to be locked down at Growlers in Memphis. And what a big deal this is, by the way. It's such a big deal that if you go on Growlers' website, they're actually advertising the show. So this tells you how big of a deal this is and what a great job everybody at Resurrection Wrestling has done to continue to put on great shows, great coverage, and sort of work with the adapting changes and everything else in between. And thank you to them. And so many great stars here on that photo. And I'm going to definitely come back to some of that here in a second. But I want to say hello to some people. My buddy Ethan Sorensen, we're doing great. Obviously,
Yep.
I'm here on a Thursday night talking wrestling, and life couldn't be any better. And that's why all wrestling matters. I guess I should ask you, I'll come back to him in a few minutes. What do you think about the new general manager? Now, he was an acting general manager. Now he's general manager, Steven Silvestri. Drake Gold Dragon, I'm going to be talking a lot about him because he's going to be in the ring coming up here for another championship that he's defending. We'll certainly talk about that, him and King Rage. We spoke a lot about that. I want to say hello to my good buddy, the first real wrestler of XCW. He is one half of their tag team champions. He is in our Hall of Fame as our third member, Mr. Justin Parsley. How you doing there, Mr. Parsley? And also, I want to say hello to my buddy in the state of Ohio, tomorrow night, Mr. Darkon of DKW. We're going to be streaming our first ever live match on Sportswire Radio, and yours truly is going to be on the call. So I'm looking forward to that. Stay tuned for a time, and we'll have that here. So, okay, so let's come back now. I'm going to put the post that if you hold back on some of that audio in the background, I would really appreciate that because it is a little bit of a hindrance, especially for the audience here live. If there's a way to get some of that audio in the background to be lowered, I would be so grateful for that. But in terms of everything else, so you got the challenge. You want to be 70%. Is still better than anybody else. I agree. You're a living legend. So let me ask you then: is this challenge big in the sense that you can still keep yourself active and ready for whatever happens between Prince and Alexander? So this is kind of like a tune-up for you to March 17th. Conversely, talk to me about that.
Absolutely. It's to tune up. It's to get ready to keep myself, at a point in my skill where that I can go and face either Alexander or Prince or both of them. Who knows how that match is going to go? It could end up turning into a triple threat. Who knows? But I can go out at any chance and I can get in the ring and prove that I can still hang with these guys that, yeah, they're a lot younger than me and they're extremely talented, a lot more talented than I was at their age, but then still prove that I can still work with them and that I can once again become world champion. If not, I mean, there's a million opportunities. There are plenty of places I could show up, walk out, and make magic, because that's what I like to do. I like to go anywhere and everywhere and make magic.
Well, you've definitely done that. Let me ask you a question. You said something interesting, and I speak with a lot of wrestlers all over the place, from literally all over the world, all forms of wrestling. And you talked about the fact that it's kind of in resurrection. The landscape has changed. It's a different game than when you started out more than 10 years ago. So how do you, in a way, keep up with the Joneses, keep up with the Drake Gold Dragons, keep up with the King Rages, keep up with the Roddy Alford, keep up with the Adrian Princes, keep up with the Dustin Alexanders? How do you keep up with all of these guys who have now looked like they want to surpass you? I mean, talk to me about that.
It's a lot of work. I mean, honestly, it's a hard, like they got it easy compared to the amount of work I have to put in, because I have to work twice as hard as they do to prove that I can still hang. Like I've been doing this trick, like I started before, even before BCW 13, 14 years ago doing this. And between going there and going into the underground and doing all this stuff, it's just been a lot. Like I've been working my ass off to try to prove that I'm good. And then I got, my body isn't where it used to be. I'm not 21-year-old Ronnie Brady anymore. I'm 28. I'm about to roll around the corner into 30.
Wow,
Like I'm not.
listen, I gotta be honest. I really like you a lot, but you still got the best is yet to come. I speak with guys on the show who've talked about, well, I don't know if I've got it, and they're like in their 40s. I mean, going on 30s, you still got some time left. I mean, what I've learned in wrestling, yes, in terms of the miles, you've put on a lot of miles for somebody at a relatively young age. So your body, yes, isn't technically like a 28-year-old, but there's guys that come on Sportswire who've done a lot. I mean, even Hardcore, for example, who Jimmy Controversy lost to in Connecticut last month with the TF crew. He's, I think, more than 10 years older than you, and he's putting himself through stuff with Madman Pondo. I mean, there's guys out there that, they're a lot older than you, and what they're doing. I mean, Darkron, for example, is, I think, 40. I mean, and what he's doing is like 10 times than anybody else. So, age is certainly a number, but I understand the fact that the mileage is definitely something that, it catches up with you. And let me say hello to a few more people here. Want to say hello to my very good buddy, Mr. Levi McDaniel. He has got an awesome YouTube channel. He is also the general manager for our friends over in the IMF. And he says, "What's up, my man? I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, bro. And thank you for all of your support and everything you do for this great sport, just like the West Memphis kid, Ronnie Brady. Don't let the old man in. This stuff keeps me young. Body feels like an old man, though. Don't let the old man sprint." See, from one of your own, another veteran, another independent like you, underground, backyard, Levi McDaniel, extremely respected in another state, from one veteran to another, giving you that advice. That's what we do here on Sports by Radio. I got a great question, though, from Steven Silvestri. I want to bring him up, and I want to say hello to the lovely Jules out there. Jules, how you doing? How you doing, beautiful? Hope you're having a very nice day out there. She's out in New York City. But the championship that you held, and you lost the world championship to Adrian Prince, and you were forced in a way to defend that championship. You kind of put it out there at an elevation show, and he took the championship really through, not obviously the most kosher tactics. I
Yeah.
think we all can agree upon. And so, how do you kind of use the motivation of, what, I lost the championship that I really, in all intents and purposes, shouldn't have lost? So how much have you thought about that, and how much is that fueling you to come back to the ring this Saturday and start the road to the comeback to regain your world championship?
It was a call. Like I watched two of my students having a great match, and then he goes out there and destroys it. So then I just wanted to destroy him. The two of the students that I
And
have
you
the
had
utmost
you
respect
beat
for.
him recently. Listen, at Fallout, you beat him. I mean, you beat him in Fallout. I mean, so
Beat him
you
plain
know.
and clean. And I didn't beat him by any nefarious means. I mean, we were having a pretty standard no DQ match. We went out there and gave it our all. It's the simplicity of it all is that, plain and simple, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna work as hard as I can to get back to that spot and go back for the title that I was, as Steven said, that I was wrongfully screwed out of. I mean, the opportunity's there. I mean, I have a rematch clause, so I could take it at Fate or Fortune. I could wait even longer and take it the next show. Like I've got an open, pretty much an open contract to decide when I want to face. I just have to announce it ahead of time. It's not like a Fate or Fortune where I can just roll out there in the middle of somebody's match and cash in like Adrian Prince did to Dustin Alexander. I gotta tell you, next week you're facing me. I'm enacting my rematch clause, and I got to take the time to figure out exactly where I am. And Tom, I am sorry about the saxophone sounds in the background. My son is practicing his saxophone right
Totally
now.
understand. We'll roll with the punches. It's all good. Definitely, you're Ronnie Brady, so we'll live with it. So you're the West Memphis kid. We'll certainly have no doubt about that. And boy, there was once a president of the United States from Arkansas, Bill Clinton. He played the
Yep,
saxophone one day on
absolutely
national
he did.
TV. So maybe he'll be the next Bill Clinton, a president of the United States. But I digress. Moving on from that. In terms of what are your goals this year in 2024? I know we lost the championship, but we're starting the road to redemption. As I always ask everybody that's come on the show here early in the year, I would like to know, what are your goals in 2024?
Well, my first goal is I want to work more. I want to go more places. I want to go to XCW or uh,
I would love to hear that. I mean, XCW, that's our home, one of our home companies on
oh yeah,
Sportzwire.
I would love to go work with them. I think all those guys do fantastic work.
Oh my God, the
There are some
storyline
guys
work.
there that have they've said some things on Instagram lives about about the company I work
Oh
for and
yeah.
the people I'm around. They've said some things, yeah, trying to be like, oh, this is me being real when not having any real information and getting fed from other people false information, which is fine. Keep doing you, have fun with it. But I'd love to go work for a company like XCW or heck, go wrestle for Venom. Just show up on a random Venom episode and I don't know, super kick Grim in the face. I don't know, that'd be kind of fun. But there's tons I
Well,
want
I
to just
speak to Jimmy. I mean, listen. I mean, we know Jimmy. I mean, Jimmy's going to come back on sports. Why I spoke to Jimmy a few days ago. I mean, he always gives me his blessing. I could drop his name. So I mean, I would love to see you in Venom. And XCW with their storyline, their deep roster, if there's scores to settle, I'm sure that Mr. Fletcher can certainly figure a way to find a spot or two for a West Memphis kid, one of the all-time greats in the South to Midwest. I would think that would be a
I'd
no-brainer.
absolutely love to break it in. It's been a while since I've been up that way. I mean, the last time I wrestled for a smaller little indie company in Illinois. That was the last independent date I booked before I took my break from wrestling. And like I love it up in that area. I've got family up in Missouri, like so it would all just work out. I'll just go spend some time with family, then drive across the river and go, wrestle for XCW and have a good time. I think a lot of those guys are fantastically talented. They put in a lot of hard work. I like their production value. Everything about them
Oh
is
my
great.
God, the XCW. I was just watching Encounters before we went on the air, and it was JX, Evan Phoenix, and Brogan O'Shea, and what a match that they put on. It was better than in a lot of pro wrestling matches I've
Oh
seen
yeah,
of them. I mean, just
absolutely. Those guys put in
and just
all of
like
the
you
hard
guys, by
work.
the way. Just like to me with Resurrection, I'm always singing the praises of Resurrection. I'm always saying Resurrection, and and I always say it before I get to some more comments. When Jimmy Controversy endorses Resurrection, that's good enough for me. If Jimmy says it's good, okay, I don't need to hear what somebody said on Instagram, somebody said on Facebook, somebody scoring settles. Yeah, they want to settle scores with people in politics, whatever. If Jimmy Controversy says it, the man that's been pretty much on the biggest stages, the man that's wrestled some guy named Tommy Dreamer, and if he likes Resurrection, yep, I think if Jimmy says it, to me, it's kind of like if everybody else with the background said, they can go push to the side because if Jimmy said it, that's a fact. I got a lot of people that want to say hi. First of all,
All right.
I actually want to say hello to my very good friend in Ohio. Once again, his name is Darkron. He's in our Hall of Fame, and he says if you ever want to come out to Ohio, in Bremen, Ohio, not too far from Columbus. They also have a show coming up, Summer Mania, on July 5th to 7th, July 4th weekend, just pretty much right afterwards. And he's extending you an open invite.
I would love to come out there. I do just I got to find the money and the travel, and I'll find my way out there. If the story's right and the opponent's right, I don't mind trying to make that happen. I can accrue. I mean, I'm accruing time off at work, so I can always take the time I need to go out there and wrestle. Like this has been in my blood my entire life. I started watching wrestling at a young age with my grandmother, and it's been my thing. I've looked at that screen and been like, I'm going to do that one day. And then to be where I am now, as lucky as I am to have been able to do it as long as I have, because at any point I could have just been done and moved on, and I've seen too many great talents just leave and just disappear, and you never see or hear from them again. And I don't want to be one of those guys. I just want to keep working and keep working hard. I,
Absolutely. Absolutely. No question about that. And if you're on YouTube for the first time, I would highly encourage that you give a sub to Resurrection Wrestling, YouTube at Resurrection Wrestling. Also, if you're on TikTok, give them a sub, Resurrection Wrestling. And that's where their next show is going to be streamed actually live for free. It's going to be this Saturday. It's going to be 2 o'clock Central Standard Time. So that'll be 3 p.m. my time in New York, anybody else's. So make sure you support these guys. They're a great company, great bunch of guys. I've gotten a chance to know these guys. And as I always say, endorsements on this show, they're not given, they're earned. These guys endured and earned my support. They've earned everything that they have coming to them, and that's why I want you to join me in supporting them. Let me get to some more people. Speaking of people, I'm sure that love to wrestle you, the one and only Nicholas Crenson, the new Messiah from the IMF and the WCE. He is in here. How you doing, buddy? And you've also got a free invite. Your invite is extended from Darkron. You're always welcome anytime. We appreciate that. Want to say hello to one of our upcoming new members of the Hall of Fame. She is doing a phenomenal job almost opening up those encounter shows and also doing ring introductions. She's wrestled also in the past. Her name is Trinity Parker. We're inducting her in our Hall of Fame on her birthday next Sunday. Grab a chair, count to 10. Can a ring announcer get an amen? You definitely got an
Absolutely.
amen. And sup, Jules? Yes. And okay, I got a great question for you. So, what's on your playlist that gets you hyped up for a match? That's a great
All right.
question.
All right. I'm going to pull it up right now. Let me just get my phone out and pull up the Spotify. I
Wow.
will.
Okay. You know what? I knew this was going to be good to have you, and this is turning into a really good show.
So right here, let me get it pulled up. Literally, it's an album. It's just a top to bottom album.
All right. Tell
It
us what you got. Tell us what you
It's
got. I want to hear
Rom
this.
Com by Jakey. It's
Okay.
top to bottom a fantastic album, and it just every song, every track on that album gets me hyped. I'll put
Okay.
on the first track, stick the headphones on for a minute, and let it just play through each song, and it keeps me going. Like it's a fantastic album. I give anybody to go check him out. He's fantastic. He's an independent artist. All of that work he did on his own. He mixed and mastered everything by himself. Great artist. I was lucky to have watched him do his silly YouTube videos, and then he's like, "Oh well, here's my album I just dropped." So I gave it a listen, and I loved every minute of it. Every track on there is great. If you go to my personal YouTube, the WMK Ronnie Brady, and you can see the highlight reel of me and Adrian Prince from Fallout, I actually used the opening track from that
Yes,
album.
I actually had a chance to watch that. I'm going to plug your social media in a second. So that's a great selection list. And also here, let me come back to some more comments because I'm way behind them. Want to say hello to my buddy D'Angelo LaFlame, who's going to be on the show right after the show itself on the 17th. I think we have him Sunday night. So D'Angelo's going to be here in the house, and D'Angelo's got a match now with Neff, and it's
Yep.
title versus career, and it looks to me it's supposed to be Neff's last match, but if I guess he could take this championship away with him, let's hope that doesn't happen. But it seems like the boat Neff, he was here with us a couple months ago on Sportswire, and that's what he's claiming. But D'Angelo raised the stakes significantly in terms of his career altogether, so we'll have to find out. Let me
Absolutely.
come back to some more people. I want to say hello to my buddy, also in our Hall of Fame, Mr. DVG himself. He's got over 78,000 followers on YouTube. So give a sub to our friends at Resurrection Wrestling. He was introducing some guy you probably heard of, Matt Riddle, a couple weeks ago at a show. So
Yeah.
he's a pretty busy guy, but I'm happy that he's here with us. And thank you, my friend. Thank you for all you do for us. I also want to come back to Mr. Steven Silvestri. And speaking of Jimmy Controversy, speaking of Mac 10, speaking of Mikey Anarchy, all three men we've had on multiple times on Sports by Radio. You have any thoughts on who this fourth person could be? And I'm sure it's not going to be Atomic Titan, right?
Oh no, it's I can guarantee it's not that. I love Titan, love him to death, but no, like I've been hearing rumors backstage of who it is. Like it could be like Mac 10 made a lot of connections when he went and wrestled at Carnage Cup, which for me
Oh, we
that
spoke a lot about that when he came on the
was
show.
watching my
Absolutely.
best friend of a ton of years. You know, you'll see us. We have our battles as any brothers do, but I was proud to see my brother go out there and finally prove to the world that he could hang in the hardcore scene because. Like I've wanted nothing but the best for him, even when he wants to attack me and attack friends and all that.
Well,
But yeah,
how do you feel about him always drinking the Mountain Dew almost like a six pack?
man, that guy, our entire lives. I mean, I drink Dr. Pepper like a crazy person,
Although to be
uh,
fair,
and he drinks Mountain Dew like it's water. So,
I gotta say I'm with him on this.
but yeah, I think it's. I've heard a few names floating around, like everybody makes the joke, oh, it could be Atomic Titan or Joe Anderson or Like
Jacob Young, the Black
Jacob
Fox.
Young. I've heard names like Obey and like a ton of other guys. Like there are so many guys that like you just hear rumblings. Like could it be this guy? Could it be that guy? It could have been. I don't remember exactly who Mac wrestled in the Spider Memorial, but it could have been him. Mac 10 could have called him and made it happen. It's the Redneck Rebel, I'm being told. It could be him. Like there's no telling which one of these guys is going to show up to be that fourth man in the match.
It's funny though that Steven brings it up as we are here with the one and only West Memphis kid, Ronnie Brady, of course, a Grand Slam winner in Resurrection Wrestling. He's going to be back in the ring this Saturday at Lockdown, and the show starts at doors are open at 1:00 Central Standard Time. Bell time is 2:00 Central Standard Time. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of All Wrestling or All Wrestling Matters. Speaking with Dustin about this because obviously he's wrestled Jimmy Controversy, he's wrestled Mac 10, and I was asking him his thoughts, and I had asked him at the time. I said, well, why don't you want to go back into that? You've obviously had success against Jimmy, Mac 10. And he had said, well, I obviously, my focus is on Adrian Prince. And, I even want to throw out there another name potentially. And it kind of goes back to your open challenge and a name that, I wonder if we're going to see him in Resurrection Wrestling, especially this Saturday, a man you've had some legendary battles with and a guy that we've gotten to like quite a bit on Sportswire. His name is Cameron Cage. Now, I was thinking, would he be somebody that's a potential, let's say, fourth person or even a potential person to answer your open challenge coming back to you, sir, the West Memphis Kid, Ronnie Brady?
I mean, it could absolutely be the possibility. I mean, when I was champion, as y'all saw in that elevation, he said, I never got my shot. And I told him, well, the shot to wrestle me is always open. Like, we've had some killer matches. The infamous dog collar cage match at Saturday Night Riot last year. Like, we've had countless battles. Like, he's a fantastic talent. I've watched him grow phenomenally. He went off to go, do his own thing. And I will correct you. This here Instagram, that is my personal Instagram. The normal Instagram is at the WMK96. That is my personal. Okay. The wrestling Instagram is at the WMK96.
Excellent. I think now you should see it come up. That's certainly. I apologize on that.
No, it happens. Like I've had so many. The Resurrection page itself is tagged my personal Instagram.
Oh, okay. I'm not the only one.
You're not the only one who gets confused because I have two Instagrams.
Like, I actually got confused because I think when I announced you in the afternoon, I think I tagged the person. I didn't have the other page. I'll make sure to fix that when we're off the air. But thank you for that. But yeah, we had Cameron on. Cameron to me is a guy that he's certainly got a lot of history with King Rage. King Rage was here. We spoke a lot about it. King Rage has been on the big stage, with a lot of the TPW guys, and he was the world champion here also. And, I felt like with Cameron that there's a lot of unfinished business, certainly with Dustin, certainly with Rage, certainly like yourself. And he, to me, again, obviously we don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen. But to me, he seems like one of the people I would put at the top of the list to answer your open challenge.
I mean, yeah, if he shows up, I'm more than willing to wrestle him. Like I came on here when he was on here, and I told him I had nothing but respect for him because I do. I have nothing but respect for him. When the last time he saw Ronnie Brady was a totally different person. I was in a dark place, being fed information from a guy that he didn't trust me and I didn't trust him. Truly, Jack Spade. He's my brother and I love him, but neither one of us
you had
each other.
Some history there.
Absolutely. Me and Jack Spade have had a long history. We've been in groups together. We've fought against each other. We've fought with each other.
You won the world title basically off about 5 months ago in that match there.
Yeah, absolutely. At Retribution, one-on-one, we faced off and I beat him. And I will admit, I got lucky because even then, that night, when I did one of my curb stomps, just something tweaked in my knee, and it happens. And I had to just roll with the punches. And then I was back to 100% before I faced Adrian Prince. But it's been a time. I have nothing but respect for any guy that wants to step up. Come on. I don't if you're in Memphis and you're right by Growler, show up and come on and wrestle Ronnie Brady. I don't mind wrestling anybody. And if it don't happen, I'll say some nice words to the crowd and then I'll go sit and watch that world title match extremely close.
I'll tell you what, Growlers is a great place, and I actually know about the venue. I've looked it up, and it's a great venue. And if I was out there, I wouldn't wrestle you, but I really want to watch you up close. But the good news is, if you are in the area, you still can buy a ticket. And I would highly
Absolutely.
encourage you to do so in a couple of places. Also, Patreon at Resurrection Pro Wrestling. And yours truly was the first subscriber to the Patreon page. So let's
Absolutely.
certainly
Thank you very
support
much.
those. Yes, I always try. You know, at this point, I'll make a joke. I have a lot of people that want to talk to you, but I'm going to make a funny joke. I'm going to certainly make you laugh here, probably, and some. People ask me all the time. They go, "What's your wardrobe?" I said, "Well, it's all wrestling shirts of companies that come on Sportswire." It's like people ask me, like, I actually got invited to a wedding in a couple months, and they were like, would you like to go? And I said, well, I will only show up if I get a chance to wear my wrestling shirt and my black pants. All I do is dress in black and wear wrestling shirts, and they're usually backyard underground wrestling shirts. So at this point, that's all in my wardrobe. So that's basically like, that's all I want to be. That's all I am at this point, because that's all we do here in Sportswire Radio. So I thought you'd kind of laugh at that, but I'm sure the people at the wedding, if I show up in a wrestling shirt, maybe,
Yeah,
maybe
they might be not be love. You might need to spruce it up. Like
well,
wear it underneath a button up.
well,
Kind of conceal
well,
it.
my funny retort will be, if I pull out my bank account, I think they'll look at me. Oh, are you like Mr. McMahon? I said, well, I'm a lot more of a humble version of Vince McMahon, so they'll probably let me stay in the wedding afterwards.
Probably.
When I bring out the checkbook, I'm sure they'll be like, okay, yeah, you can stay,
Yeah.
So, but that's here nor there. Let me come back to people. I'll come back to Ethan's comments. I want to say hello to Mr. Omen Black. Speaking of hardcore people, he is our boogeyman of the Midwest. It is his show. He is our seventh member of our Hall of Fame. He is the hardcore god. He says, welcome, and welcome to my show. Also, D'Angelo, who holds a pinfall victory over you in a tag match at Deadly Collision. I mean, he's here.
Absolutely.
And, what do you think on his match with Neff, by the way? I mean, I am really intrigued by what's going to happen there between them and the personal issues there. And obviously, Neff doesn't work here anymore.
Yeah, he was going to take his ball and go home, and then he weaseled his way into trying to get an extension so that he could try to get Jalen to Mr. LaFlame to then fight him, and it happens. I mean, he tried his best, and LaFlame, he stepped it up, laid out the challenge plain and simple. You're not gonna keep signing extensions and try to tell the fans, oh, I'm gonna stay this much longer when you're on your way out the door anyways. So if you want this shot, put your career up. And I think it's going to be an absolutely fantastic match. Their match at Fallout
I'm
was
very excited about
fantastic.
that. I think that
I
match.
think they're going to kill it. And I think my man LaFlame is going to walk out proving why he is the internet champion, arguably one of the best champions in the company, and he's going to prove it. And he's going to beat that.
And I think that in the public court of opinion, they see him as the champion. They see him as their champion, and he's going to talk about the match regardless the next night. So I'm looking forward to that. Also here, I hate to say this, but I hope he wins. I think he's talking about Mr. LaFlame.
Yeah.
Mr. Black would like to say, Resurrection Wrestling, I want to say one thing. Be ready for Omen Black. Be ready for the Foundation coming. I don't know anything about this. Am I missing something, or is the potential that you could be seeing some Foundation members coming to Tennessee? That they're in Indiana. They've been in Shelbyville and XPW.
Hey, come on! I mean, I'm more than willing to let people come show up. I got a little pull backstage. I can make it happen. Like I can make people. I can poke the GM a little bit.
For a second, this is such an interesting topic. If I could, Omen comes on the show. It's his show, obviously, and I always tell Omen, Omen, why don't you want to test your strength up against guys that actually play in Resurrection? Like, I don't know, Mac 10, Carnage Cup guy, Mikey Anarchy, GTS Intercontinental Champion, UWF World Champion, and that other guy, Jimmy freaking Controversy. Maybe Omen should want to make a pit stop into Tennessee, into Memphis, because you know what? I would like to see who really might be the hardcore god between a boogeyman of the Midwest, a Carnage Cup participant in Mac 10, Mikey Anarchy, the man who looks like Connect the Dots with his back, all the cuts he's had on it, and then Jimmy Controversy. I mean, the stars could certainly align. Anybody could see that, you know what? I'll even go out there and say, I know Mr. Black's got his own stuff going out there. He can't be the fourth participant, but I would love to see one day all four of those people in a ring one day. So stay tuned. Thank you for Mr. Black. We'll see him tomorrow night as well. We'll have more comments from him shortly. And can you confirm this, that he had a 2-liter Mountain of Dew at training today?
I wasn't here at training today. I was at work, but I believe it. Like I said, I've known Mac 14 years. I can believe it that he had a 2-liter bottle of Mountain Dew, just drinking it at training. I can believe it 100%.
I don't know if I should say this on the air. It's okay. I'll say it because years ago, so I'm a Mountain Dew drinker, and years ago I was drinking a Mountain Dew, and somebody said, well, Mountain Dew lowers your sperm count. I don't know if that's a joke or it's hearsay, but I always was kind of looked at them like, really? I mean, it's Mountain Dew, but I think it hasn't. But that's Mountain Dew's. Certainly, maybe they'll have to handle that. But I thought that was my thing to point out. I'll come back to Steven in a second. Let's go, LaFlame. Beat that. Basically, fill in the boat. Ronnie Brady, the West Memphis Kid versus Sean Jovi. Sean Jovi's our resident rock star, also the WC Interstate. Everybody wants, I knew everybody wants a piece of the West Memphis Kid because they know that you're one of the greats. They
I'm
know
willing.
it's a
I'm
big
willing to
deal
fight
that you're here.
anyone and everyone.
It's
Anyone
not
and
like,
everyone.
when we have certain people come on and they say they're, backyard this, ruler this. No, when you come on, literally, you've been doing it for nearly decades. You've been doing it for 2 decades, and you've been on top for 2 decades. That's when people come here tonight and they want to talk to you, that's what it comes down to. And this person, I'm pretty sure I know very well here, and Ronnie will not face me. Yeah, we know who that is. We definitely know who that is.
Yeah, I know who that is, and
Yeah.
I'll face Mac. You have fun with your little let's beat the crap out of each other with light tubes, guys, and then once you're done and you've had your little fun with the anarchy and the destruction, then come actually wrestle Ronnie Brady. And yeah, I don't. I'm not afraid of Mac 10.
Well,
Mac 10 thinks I'm afraid of him.
it was funny, real quick, on the topic of light tubes. And again, I'm not speaking for this, but I heard Fletch talk about this. This was on XCW TV. This was actually with Aaron Blaze. I mean, Aaron Blaze is, an interesting figure. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah,
But
controversial to say the least.
yeah, I'm gonna say no comment on that. But obviously, what I thought was fascinating was that Fletch actually talked about with him and Aaron Blaze. I think Aaron Blaze actually said it rather than Fletch, that light tubes don't hurt as much as other things in a hardcore match, which I kind of almost found that perplexing. But well, I'm sure I'm not going to find that out. But I'll certainly let other people give their opinion on it. But I have a few other questions here. Let's see here. Question is, who in Resurrection will face the Foundation? Who dares face off with Omen Black? I'll wait. Forever to promote the business? Great question. Let me see here. I do have something else here. Tom, that's the plan. Buddy Old Pal show up at every place those guys show up. Okay, I want to come back to that. And Steven, I want to ask you about Steven. Steven's our new general manager, and he first was assistant general manager, but now he's been promoted to the general manager. What's your impressions on Steven Silvestri so far, now that he's gotten the role? He was wrestling's greatest referee, wrestling's greatest interviewer. Now he's trying to be wrestling's greatest now new general manager. So what's your opinion on him so far in his short term as general manager?
I think he's doing great work. I mean, yeah, he's the ref. So he's sitting there, he's got to call those matches down the middle, but he also has the job of doing what's right by the fans. The people make this. Like, everyone, I've turned my back on them several times, but at the end of the day, the people make you. Whether you're a good guy or a bad guy, the people make you. You're nothing without them. The fans are the most important part of this business. Like, if there was no one watching, then because they have to have their voice in a company, and honestly, the people's voice in this company is Steven, because he knows what those people want to see. He knows the matches that they want to see, who they want to see go up against each other, who they want to do all this, and when it's an injustice, he knows that he has to do right and fix it.
Okay, so you feel like so far he's on the straight and narrow, and he's doing his best to try to keep things in line. Then
absolutely, he's trying his best, but like I said, we got some wild cards around here, like the Adrian Princes and the great gold dragons of the company. They like to do things their own way, and sometimes it works out for them, but sometimes it doesn't.
What do you think then on Gold Dragon and Rage? Where do you see that going there? Rage was obviously the world champion. He was on the big stage. He's kind of taking a bit of a detour here. Gold Dragons obviously had the title, and they've had their issues. It comes to a head this Saturday. I mean, where do you see that from afar going?
Man, it's crazy to see, because I've seen Rage and Gold Dragon. I've seen them both, become stars of their own, and honestly, it's going to be a hard-hitting match. Like, both men wrestle very distinct styles.
Yep.
And they're both going to try to give it their all for the national title, which to me, I know, like, a lot of people say it's the workhorse title, but to me,
I was going to say it's the measuring stick title. Yeah,
it's the workhorse title.
Yeah.
That title right there is the launching point. It shows, yeah, I'm the best in the division. I'm the best wrestler. And then if they lose it or they give it up, they've proven that they are in the caliber of winning the world title. It's that simple. And I think both men are going to give it their all and try to, this is the comeback story for Rage after being stripped of the title, and this is Gold Dragon trying to prove why he's champion, why he's been champion for as long as he has.
I think you couldn't have said it any better there, and we'll certainly see. Also, Steven wants to say light tubes aren't that bad. I took one today. Mac decided to hit me with one at training. I'll come back to Omen in a second. Let me ask you though. You said something interesting, and for the audience that's starting to get to know you, obviously people here. I watch Resurrection. I've gotten to know you, but you talked about earlier in the show tonight that you had a bit of a detour where you obviously, you were wrestling for a long time, but even before Brady Championship Wrestling, you did like everybody else, attempted the indies, and then there was kind of a layoff. Why was there a layoff, and what was that like in terms of wanting you to come back in the ring? So maybe talk about that layoff period. Why did you go into a layoff, and then obviously coming back here with Resurrection? Talk about
I
that for the
wrestled
audience.
my last match all those years ago, and I didn't expect it to be my last match. And that's usually what a lot of guys say. Some guys they get the match that just writes them off, and they get to ride off in the sunset. But for most guys, you don't think it's your last match. I had no intentions of it being my last match, but then life happens. I had a bunch of issues happen and a bunch of things go down, and here we are now. Like it was a tumultuous time in my life. I was having to work to take care of my family and take care of the people that I love. And it, like I always say to the guys that I work with, I'm like, always put your family first. And that's what I did. I put my family first for all those years, and then good friends pulled me right back into the business because that's what they do. Like good people, having good people around you are going to make you want to chase your dreams. And I never gave up on the dream. It just was put on pause because I'm going to say it. The never say never line in wrestling is 100% true. Retirement in wrestling, as you've seen with like Ric Flair, the man's
Oh my
retired
goodness. I
three
mean,
times.
I listen
Like
to like a podcast a day. It's Conrad Thompson with Jeff Jarrett. I listen to the Eric Bischoff one. I listen to Grilling JR. Mick Foley's got one now. And the topic is like everyone is okay. Is Flair turning on Sting, or is Flair going to wrestle one more time still? I mean, Flair is like the biggest example of a guy that like, I don't think, I think he said this on Nitro. This was years ago. You probably don't remember it, but I remember it very well. He actually said he wanted to die in the ring. I feel like Flair's goal is to basically like go out there until like he can't no more, and basically like that's it. So I think
yeah,
Flair is never going to retire permanently. I even heard about 9 or 10 months ago that Hogan wanted to go out and have one more match, and like I'm saying to myself, like I don't know how that's possible with all the stuff he's went through. So you never know. And then there's even stuff going on out there that Mick Foley is actually training to lose enough weight by his 60th birthday to have one more hardcore death match. I mean, maybe you guys can, you guys have got Mac 10. You guys have got Jimmy Controversy. You guys have got Mikey Anarchy. And we do know that Mick Foley was just in the Indies not too long ago. So you know what? Maybe if you listen to this, Mick Foley, you want to have one more match, you're getting in shape, you're losing that weight, maybe you want to have that final match, that hardcore death match against any of our top stars, Mikey Anarchy, Jimmy Controversy, Mac 10, at Resurrection Wrestling for the big 60. Just saying.
I mean, it'd be crazy. It definitely would be an honor. That is a guy I watched growing up, one of my absolute favorites, and no questions asked. When people ask me who my Mount Rushmore is, he's definitely on that Mount Rushmore because like the things he did for the sport, not just like he set the stage for a lot of what hardcore became.
He
Yeah,
put it on the
ECW was doing
mainstream.
some wild
Yeah.
stuff, but he made like him and Terry Funk in the early '90s in
In
Japan,
Japan,
and
yep.
they set the stage,
Even the
and they
stuff he did with Vader back in like 93 in WCW, 93, 94, even the stuff he did with an ECW. You mentioned Terry Funk as well. He was an ECW there, and he helped out those guys. He was the guy that, even though Terry Funk was no question, on the big stage, but
he's
it
the
really was.
godfather. He's the godfather of deathmatch
Yeah,
wrestling.
he's the godfather, but his first, his big run, he wasn't a hardcore wrestler. Yes, he reinvented himself back in the 90s, but Mick Foley was the guy that put it on the mainstream match,
Absolutely.
on the mainstream stage. He laid the foundations for the guys like a Tommy Dreamer, guys like a Sandman. guys like even now a Matt Cardona, quote unquote, even guys like in GTS everywhere. So it really, Mick Foley, you look at what he did for hardcore wrestling and deathmatch wrestling. There's no question that, he definitely will have to see. Let me come back to some comments here. Mr. Black wants to tell me before coming to Resurrection Wrestling, he's got Damian Saint, Saturday Night, Ox McCoy, and Joey Knotts are also on his hit list. Trust me, I'm like John Wick in this business. Well, that's an interesting one. Yeah, that's a good line. Okay, we'll see if you're going to be an equalizer or a certainly Mr. Wick-like in terms of your kills. And he mentions a name that certainly isn't past tense, a name that basically was run out of town in multiple promotions he worked for.
Oh
So
yeah, he made it abundantly clear that he didn't give a shit about this business and just wanted to be famous.
There was a rumor out there that he was getting a tryout in Stamford, Connecticut, or that company.
I can confirm because I know what company he went to train at. I can absolutely confirm that is 100% false information.
Because it was actually thrown out there on this platform that he had actually talked about that there was a potential that he would be trying out with a company with 3 initials and that was going to be happening. So again, that's just what we heard from the individual. Obviously, we want to wish all people the best, but he does want to bring up Mr. Black in factual terms that he basically ran him out of town of his promotion. Obviously, you guys ran him out of town in your promotion, but in his promotion, Mr. Black, he basically, kicked him to the curb and basically ran him out of town. So basically, he's saying pretty much, that's what he's trying to say is you guys and him have a lot in common. You guys basically, trim the fat. You guys have certainly kind of, obviously knew what's best for business. And those are things that we'll certainly move on to because we want to talk about the
Don't bring personal to the ring. He is the world's worst about it. Don't bring personal into the ring.
I've heard that in other locker rooms, and I want to be very kind of those locker rooms because they work with us on Sportswire. So if you've watched those particular promotions he's worked for with 3 initials, there's at least a few of them. You can ask them about it, but they've told us off the air. So I'm going to move on from that. Mac 10 wants Mick Foley, and also Mr. Gold Dragon wants to say me and Rage is not in the same league. We're going to find out. I'll tell you what, we're going to certainly find out. Also, not going to lie, Mick Foley would be nuts. Yeah, I mean, listen, we'll put it out there. We'll never forget about the match he had with The Undertaker. Yes, King of the Ring, 98.
That's why we're still talking about it 20-something years later. We're still talking about that match.
I just watched it. I just watched it on YouTube like last week. I mean, literally, I just watched the match. And also, Ronnie, I may be customizing a new Fate or Fortune briefcase.
Awesome. I think that'll be fantastic. Something for them, for the people to go after at Fate or Fortune.
And I would love for people to do that. And right now, my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling. And if you're on Sportswire Radio, I want to make sure you know that still for this month, it is Resurrection Wrestling Month here. So on all platforms here, whether it's Twitch at Sportswire Radio, Tumblr at Sportswire Radio, Facebook at Sportswire Radio, YouTube here right now, sportswireradio.org. Also on Twitter at Thomas Price 2017, Instagram at The Sports Report 2021. It is Resurrection Wrestling Month, and we are continuing that coverage just hours before a lockdown with the only legend that we have here that we could think of here that's from West Memphis, Arkansas. His name is Ronnie Brady, and my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling. And if you're on YouTube here, give us a sub. I want to thank everybody that continues to sub and like our platform here. Well over 500 subscribers, about 300 of them in the last 6 months, so I appreciate your support. Also, again, as I stated, we're on Facebook at Sportswire Radio and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We're on sportswireradio.org, which is an internet radio station, which yours truly runs on behalf of the community. So if you have a podcast, if you have live music you'd like to play, or if you want to have your chance to program your name out there in the World Wide Web free of charge, I can help you do that. I give back to the people, and I have about 15 podcasts currently on our internet radio station. So anytime via the Listen Live button, you're welcome to tune in. We have more coverage coming up here tomorrow night, figure between 9 and 10 o'clock Eastern time, with a slew of guys from the IMF, and I'm endorsing that show, The King of the Center, just like I'm endorsing Resurrection Wrestling's upcoming show. I'm endorsing the King of the Center show. I've donated to the show. I've also sponsoring the event, and we have a slew of guys that are going to be there, plus our first ever live match here, which I'm going to be streaming it. I'm going to do such a bad job, Ronnie, that the DKW and IMF guys are going to be like, we're never coming back to Sportswire. Tom's going to do such a bad job calling the matches that they might even want that guy we were talking about who was basically blackballed from other companies to be on set and call the matches. But obviously, all kidding aside, we're going to call the match. We're going to talk about it. We're going to have a great time. And afterwards, we're going to have a slew of guys here from the IMF to talk about it for sure. And I'm very excited about that. I'll also be here at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time with Chris Levitt aka Jake Carnage and Necro Daddy from the UK. So a lot of great stuff ahead. I'm also going to be here with the Puerto Rican Prince at 9 o'clock. Angel Santiago from the TF crew, and he's friends with Jimmy Controversy. He's running with Jimmy Controversy in Pro Wrestling Venom, and I've seen him in other places like XPW, GTS, and he's going to be here. He's the TF crew YouTube champion. He speaks for the first time here in nearly 3 months, and the next day I've got Gabe Sayers, who's only the man behind TF crew, and he's also got some issues with and a long history with Mikey Anarchy. So there's a lot there, a lot of stuff to intertwine with you. What a small world. And those guys are going to be here this coming weekend. But right now we are celebrating Resurrection Wrestling Month with none other than the West Memphis Kid, Ronnie Brady. Also, D'Angelo the Flame is back Sunday as well. So let me get to some more comments here. Let the champ pull some strings, and I'll get a big name to pop up. Okay. Well, stay tuned. Stay tuned. Maybe a thigh slap, LaFlame. Okay, all right. I'm gonna let those guys come back to that. Okay, so obviously, we're speaking about the show itself, but let me mention a couple of other names. Obviously, younger talents who are up and coming here. What's your thoughts on Malibu and Roddy Alpha?
I think Roddy Alpha has nothing but thoroughly impressed me since the first time I saw him step in the ring. It comes to him naturally. It's like nothing I've ever really seen before. Like there are guys that pick things up super easy, but for him it was just natural. Like he'd been doing it forever. Malibu, he works hard. Like you don't see him as often in Resurrection because he's got a whole busy life. But when he shows up, he puts in as much work as he can. Like on training days when he can show up, I watch him work twice as hard as everybody else because he hasn't really had as much opportunity as everybody else. I mean, he proved it in the Fatal 4-Way. He's trying to prove it again facing Roddy Alpha, and it's going to be a good time. I think that both of them are fantastic talents, and I think they have a long time to go in this business.
We had Jacoby on the show a few weeks ago. Jacoby made his return at Fallout after a year absence. I mean, I was very impressed with him. I mean, quite a talker. I mean, very mature beyond his years. And talk to me about what you're looking for and seeing from Jacoby this weekend and beyond.
He's mature sometimes, but he's
He's
got a
more
lot of
mature than me. I got to be honest with
yeah,
you.
that's
I
fair.
mean,
But he's got a lot of growing up to do. This business doesn't take chances. This is like you've got to be a professional. He's got a lot of growth to do. Over that year he was gone, he did a lot of soul searching and a lot of growth. And if he continues that growth at the rate he's going, I don't see why he can't be a world champion. Like it's in the
he's
cards for
got
him
the
to be before
size.
it's
I mean,
all.
he's got the look for it. There's no question that, when you're looking for a talent and you look for things to check the boxes, can talk. He's got the size, got the look. I mean, he's got that. But then, obviously, like you said, you have to be able to go out there and still move in the ring and perform. There are guys all the time that have, as let's say in baseball terms, 5 tools, but
Yeah,
don't have the most important tool. And that's still the tool that to be able to go out there and hit. It's kind of the same thing in wrestling. You still got to be able to perform those moves and be able to kind of connect with the audience where they see that viability long term. So that
absolutely,
might be where he still has some growing to do.
absolutely, 100%. Like he's putting in the work. Like he wasn't putting in as much work in the early parts of his career when I would watch him in trainings and stuff. He was kind of like, oh, it should just come easy, and nothing worth it is ever easy. Like I've been told that by my grandfather, my grandmother, by my parents. Nothing in life that is worth it comes easy. It's
Sure.
hard work, especially wrestling. It is not easy. It is not for the faint of heart. I tell people that show up like new guys for training, I was like, take your first bump. I promise that's going to pretty much tell you everything you're going to need to know. If that first bump is hurting so bad it's not even funny, you may need to think about it or push it a little bit and see where you're at. Because fear is the main thing that stops a lot of guys from being successful.
It's funny you said that. I speak with a lot of people all the time, and obviously, I don't know what goes on in people's minds. I can't think on behalf of somebody, but the main thing I've learned, I've been doing this for 5 years, and I've been interviewing wrestlers for about 3 to 3.5. I've always used the term wrestling is like an apprenticeship, meaning that you have to go and learn, and it's like going to a trade school. It was always like when I was a kid, my uncle would tell me I got to go and be a carpenter, I got to be a plumber, I got to be an electrician. Obviously, I don't listen to him, but the point
Yeah,
was to be a wrestler. I've always felt like, in a way, it's kind of similar in that it's an apprenticeship. Do you find that kind of a similar term to kind of define being a wrestler?
absolutely. Like I'm still learning. I'm still taking in knowledge because the
Sure.
the way that wrestling evolves constantly. It's never one way. Like there are guys like, and I hate to say it, the Memphis wrestling scene is so dead set on wrestling being the way that it was in the 80s and 90s, like that same style and that same way of doing things. The
Iron Claw.
wrestling
It's like
world,
Iron Claw all over again. It's like
yeah,
I just with
the
the Von
wrestling
Erichs.
world has it's evolved. It's not what it
Absolutely.
used to be 20 years ago, 30 years
Not
ago.
even listen. Not even 5 years ago. To be
Yeah,
honest with you, it's not even
wrestling
like
5 years ago is completely different than wrestling now. Wrestling is constantly evolving, and if you
absolutely.
don't evolve with it, like if you don't grow with it, you're just gonna fall behind. Like that's why I try my best to learn and study tape and see what everybody else is doing and tweak my move set accordingly and learn new styles. Like it's the way to do it. If you know enough, there's the opportunities are gonna flow.
You have a lot of younger talent, a lot of young and up and coming talent, and you obviously have a wealth of experience. You've done it all. What advice do you give a lot of the up and comers? Obviously, coming on the show or have been on the show already. Certainly, D'Angelo's coming back on. He's a guy that certainly seems like he wants to take the bull by the horns. Obviously, Rage has been on here. Rage has been in the big stage to some extent. Dustin's obviously, I think, right there. He obviously the win against Jimmy. He's been in there against a lot of the TBW guys. But in general, in the locker room that you guys have, what advice do you try to give to the talent?
It's your worst match is always your current match. You like plain and simple. The guys will beat themselves up that a match doesn't go right. As long as you do the next one better than you did the last one, then there's nowhere to go but up. If you treat every match like, well, I could have done this better, and not, oh, well, it was horrible because I messed up. No, treat it like I could have done this better. Learn from it. Use it to learn. Like your mistakes are the perfect teacher. Like, because mistakes are going to happen. This business
Absolutely.
is wild, and being in the ring, you lose yourself in the moment and can mess up in a heartbeat. That's why a channel like Botchamania on YouTube gets millions of subscribers and views because it happens from the bottom to the top. Everybody messes up. You've got to learn from those mistakes and correct accordingly. Like that's what I try to tell all the guys. Is like if you're only as good as your next match. You're not as good as your last match or the match before that. You're only as good as your next match.
Oh, absolutely, no question about it. I mean, as a kid, there was a show, America's Funniest Home Videos, kind of for the same thing. People would watch these things, and they were looking for that moment. And I think, in a lot of ways, I still think that people might look at their worst matches and try to like push it and not think about it. I always look at them as the teaching moments. I always look at those moments. Those are the moments I learned the most from because there was always an old expression that I learned in life was that, sure, you do great, but you really learn from when you fail, when you lose, because those are the kind of things that make yourself better. They make you so stronger, and they make you go out there and do the things that are necessary in order to be successful. So let me get me some more comments. It's certainly allergy season here. Tom, my second favorite Foley match was Randy Orton versus Cactus Jack from Backlash 2004. Wasn't that the one where he was like supposed to retire again after WrestleMania? Where
Yeah,
that was the one where I think was it the one he fell down the stairs or something like that? Was it the match I'm thinking
I'm
of?
not sure,
It was
but I
one of
know
them.
that match was a bloodbath. Randy Orton
Yes.
proved that was like during the beginnings of the Legend Killer run.
Yes,
So
that was the match I think that kind of put
that was
him
the
on.
year that was the year before the Edge match at Mania, which was his
Yes.
last match.
And that was yes, and then it was I think one night stand. They had the fire match, right? That was the match where him and
No, the Flaming Table was WrestleMania.
okay, and then I think didn't
Yeah,
they
I
have a
think
match at one night stand afterward? I feel like they had something else after. I feel like there was something else they had, but somebody can quote me on it.
yeah they can
But
they can correct us. Like there's so much you
I'm
lose
focused on
track of time
resurrection
and
right now. But
everything
yeah,
floats around.
but yeah, no, for sure, Randy Orton. That was kind of the moment that solidified him and becoming at the time the youngest world champion. Ripcord. Yep, I think that's an earlier. Yep, earlier references that everybody's saying the same thing.
Yep,
Yes, there
ripcord.
you go. There you go. On a real note, Jack Fawn would be so cool to have at a show. Okay.
Yeah, he's a good worker. He's hilarious. He makes fun of indie wrestlers and super indie wrestlers, which I mean it's easy to jab. Like I'm sorry, like everyone's been slapping their thigh with a super kick forever. Why like if it ain't broke, don't
Go
fix it.
fix it. Yeah.
That's like if it ain't broke.
Look, everybody, listen, everybody does the chop. Everybody goes, though. They got to go to the corner and do the chop as if like the chop hasn't been done before.
Yeah.
Everybody has to go out there now. Everybody does their own version of the Stone Cold Stunner. I mean, obviously, we love everybody that does it. By the way, I want to make sure there's guys that do the stunner, but everybody does their own take on things, and I
Yep.
don't like to go out and kind of knock people for doing it because everybody has their own reasons why they do things. And,
Absolutely.
that's why we've come up with the term all wrestling matters here on Sportswire Radio, because to me, all wrestling matters. So that's why if you're going out there and you're doing something that maybe somebody doesn't like, well, to me, I kind of like it because I want to give people an opportunity that are going out there, putting their bodies on the line, like obviously you guys, like obviously the guys in TBW, IMF, and DKW. And speaking of TBW, that's a great segue. I mean, you guys done a lot of work with them, and I've been so happy that you guys have been doing that because obviously we do a lot of work with them. That's kind of actually how I got introduced to you guys, really, is through TBW. You've had a lot of their talent on their shows. Obviously, I go back to Battlefield months ago, and it was
Absolutely.
TBW and Resurrection. So kind of talk to me about the relationship that you guys have had with TBW.
That's a great crew of guys out there, man. Like, they're a great crew of guys. I love all of them to death. They were like the people behind the scenes were so welcoming to us when we came down there to TBW. They all work hard. They all try their best. And yeah, like there have been some people calling them like a cosplay promotion and this, that, and the third. Well, like you reference gimmicks because like you loved that gimmick for whatever reason. You reference it and then you ingrain it into yourself and then change it a little bit. Like Gage Flair isn't a carbon copy of Ric Flair. He's like Ric Flair Jr. If like in Mexico when someone would be like El Mascara Jr. or something. He's like that.
Or Rey Mysterio. People do their own Rey
Yeah.
Mysterio. Conan was a legend in Mexico. People
Yeah.
did their own impressions of Conan. I would even add that, listen, TBW was featured on Barstool not too long ago.
Yeah.
TBW has nearly 7,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Absolutely.
TBW, people want to watch TBW. They happen to like what TBW is doing.
Absolutely.
And it would be fool's gold to put them down or to not recognize the impact that they've had. And we've had people come on the platform and try, make a name, and they say, TBW this, TBW that. But I look at it and say, well, these guys are setting a trail, and I would want to work with these guys because these guys, whether it's the Atomic Titan, whether it's Joshua Allen, their owner, whether it's Russell Cooper, their new champion, or the Prophet Jay Wild, or whether it's certainly Commissioner Beast, or whether it's anybody else that they have on their roster, Fat Age now, the Party Killer. I mean, and certainly Mr. Flair himself and Johnny J. I mean, at the end of the day, you look at their talent and their company name, it's almost like Coke or Pepsi. I mean, so to me, TBW, like, you want to work with them. They have the following. They have the base.
Absolutely. Like if you want to get more eyes on your stuff, work with a company like that. If another company, if they're willing to work with you, like why not work with them? Like they're top-notch wrestlers. They have the following, and if even only a quarter of those eyes think, well, this Ronnie Brady guy, I want to go see what he's doing over here. Like if even like a quarter of those people decide to go over like what they see and hit the subscribe button, that benefits everyone. If our
I'll
people
tell you this,
from us go over there.
I'm going to tell you something. You probably believe it. I do a lot of British wrestling coverage. That's how I got my start, ironically, in wrestling, covering it. And the British wrestling guys, I don't want to say who they are because I'll blow them up and people will be like, what? They were watching it? I get British pro wrestlers that have told me specifically that watched YouTube on my Sportswire page, the guys in TBW, that they've watched them. I get the British pro wrestlers from the other side of the world, the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, that have told me they've watched TBW. So that tells you that their footprint is what it is.
Yeah,
so
it's monumental for the sport.
Absolutely,
it benefits everyone. Because
absolutely,
they have people show up from all kinds of companies, and if that gets eyes on that person, so then they're like, all right, I'm gonna go see what that person's doing over here, and then everyone wins.
I have guys come on here all the time and say, oh, they're this, they're that. But I want to cover them still because I look at it like these guys, when I bring them on Sportswire, people want to hear them because they like them. They know that they're doing a good job. They're also doing a huge role for all of us that love this sport and are about all wrestling matters. So I
Absolutely.
want those guys to, just like I want you guys to succeed, just like I want IMF to succeed, and DKW and ROEW, VTW, DBW. I want everybody to succeed, and that's what it should all be about. We love him. It was great having Painmaker there. Well, he's not going by Painmaker anymore, but I get the point. Russell
The
Cooper.
Painmaker, it has been confirmed. The Painmaker's last match was in a resurrection ring.
Yes,
Like
that we
I've
know. That we
I've
know.
spoken with Josh Allen several times, and like
Yes.
he was thankful to be in that
Oh, we
building with
praise
us
you guys.
and write it off.
I think you came on when he was here. We spoke a lot about, what you guys have meant to them and that company. It's been, and I hope. Now, obviously, I don't know what's going to happen. Their season 8 starts next month, but I would hope that we can see more crossover with Resurrection and TV because we saw it season finale 7 anyway. I mean, we had some great. Listen, Dustin Alexander and Russell Cooper wrestled. I mean, we saw Drake Golddragon. We saw D'Angelo LaFlame on the show. I mean, there was a lot of great talents. I would love to continue to see that there, and I wish.
Absolutely.
I've
I've told all of them there. I would love to come work another show. The atmosphere is electric down there. Going down there and hanging out and wrestling it's a great time.
Absolutely.
To what Steven said, Russell Cooper is an absolute he's a firecracker, man. He's
I spoke to guys off the air that don't work in TBW, and they even said Russell Cooper, great guy, great champion. He's the guy. Definitely he's gonna do a lot of great things, and we wish him.
It was plain and simple his time.
Absolutely. I could not agree. He was a commissioner once upon a time. So think about his journey, going from being commissioner to the world champion. Certainly great story. He's got a great Claymore kick, and I'm really excited to see what he does also. TB-Dub. Yes, we always say that here. I'm going to move off of that. Okay, so obviously in the remaining time, I know you're a busy man. You're getting ready for the show coming up here on Saturday. What do you want to say to people that are hearing Resurrection Wrestling for the first time and kind of why they should go out and all these different links, hit that sub button, hit that follow button, subscribe on Patreon? Talk to me, to the people that are here hearing you guys for the first time, and why should they support Resurrection Wrestling like I do here on Sportswire Radio?
Resurrection to me, plain and simple. Yeah, you've got some veterans like me and Mac 10 and GM Joe, and you've got guys that, we've been around the bend and we've done this a long time, but like I like to say, we're trying to create the next generation of superstars here. Eventually one day I would love to just be able to just take a step back and watch this company flourish without me. But until I can't do it anymore, I'm probably going to be wrestling every week. But we try to make
you're nowhere near Flair's age. I mean, we spoke about Flair 30 minutes ago.
Fair. I am nowhere near that. But it's I love it. I love watching everybody that shows up grow. It's fantastic, and you could literally go watch from one match to the next the progression of every single wrestler trying to get better, trying to do more work. Like the fact that now we've got promos going up on the Instagram. Promos are starting to go up on the YouTube.
I see it all the time. You guys have Instagram lives. The Instagram page is going up. I see, a lot of activity. Steven Silvestri is doing a great job. He's always posting videos.
I actually can announce right here for my man, Mr. LaFlame. I was told through a little birdie that he here tomorrow or the next day, a very special release on the YouTube channel, the Hot Take Special Elevation. It's all hot take interviews from Mr. LaFlame himself.
Well, you know what? I know Steven usually tags me on Instagram, so I'm going to say it right now. If Steven's out there, you know who he is, just tag me on Instagram. Give me that link because I'm always watching Resurrection. I'm always checking out wrestling. All I do these days is watch wrestling. So if you're out there, make sure Hot Take Steven Silvestri. DM me the link. I'll probably find it anyway, but still do it tomorrow because I'll be having a little bit of a down break before my second set, which is the IMF DKW guys in your chair. So definitely, I'm really excited about that. Boy, what a Christmas gift, an early Christmas gift for us wrestling and us Resurrection Wrestling fans. And that less than 24 hours before the big show, we're going to get an Elevation Hot Take show. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. This is why we love Resurrection Wrestling. Let me get to a lot more comments here in a short amount of time. Hot takes, there you go. And guess what? There's a special guest interviewer with him too. Oh, I wonder who that special guest interviewer is. So I'm going to certainly say, yeah, that's probably a good idea. I'm tuning in. And yes, thank you, Jules, for tuning in. I appreciate that. I hope everybody tunes in. You can do that on YouTube at Resurrection Wrestling. And if you want to watch Saturday's show, and I'll put it up one more time on the screen, this Saturday, the 17th, is going to be the show. Tuesday would be certainly somebody else we're going to come on here. But this Saturday, you can see the banner here. And I'm going to take this off the screen. I'm going to take off Jules' comment and let people see it one more time. So there you go here. The doors open 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. 2 o'clock Central Standard Time is when Showtime starts. And get this, from $5 and up. Ronnie Brady, the West Memphis Kid. I just saw the movie Argyle. I must have spent last week, I don't know, $20+ on this movie. And what a ripoff. But instead, put that money away. Put that money toward Resurrection Wrestling. Get the kids out, get the wife, drag her out, even if she doesn't like wrestling, and go see a slew of superstars, including the West Memphis Kid Ronnie Brady's open challenge. And if you're like me in New York, all you have to do is go on that TikTok, Resurrection Wrestling, and you watch the show free of charge. You're going to see pro wrestling stars from around the world. You're going to see champion versus champion, title versus career. You're going to see a slew of even more stars ahead. This is only the beginning of what 2024 has to offer for Resurrection Wrestling. Also, if you have a chance, hit that Patreon page, go subscribe, donate. Also, Redbubble store. Go out and get your Resurrection Wrestling merchandise. I mean, like I said, all I do these days is wear wrestling shirts. Be like me. Well, don't be like me, but actually be like me in getting wrestling shirts, because that's the only thing I wear these days. And add Resurrection Wrestling to that. I promise you, it's going to be a great show. D'Angelo's going to be here the next day to talk about it. We're going to have even more coverage throughout the next month with the next show. And Resurrection Wrestling, we're proud to support these guys. Joseph Tibbs, I want to give him a big shout out, by the way. Joseph Tibbs, I mean, he is doing a great job. You want to say anything bad about Joe before we get to close? I'm only kidding. Actually say something good about Joe.
I mean, he does the work. He tries his best, man. That's all you can do is try your best.
Joe's the man. Joe's the man. Joe, I'm always speaking with Joe. He's always checking in. How's it going? We're always talking. Joe, there's a lot of people that I say, yeah, I like them. But then there's Joseph Tibbs, and he's somebody that I genuinely say I root for. Obviously, I root for the guys in the IMF. I root for Omen, Soldier, DKW, Darkron. I obviously root for the guys in DBW, VTW, all my British wrestlers that come on the show. But then there's you guys, and I legitimately root for Joseph Tibbs. I legitimately root for him and this company's success. Obviously, you playing a huge role with it now, Steven Silvestri as the general manager. And, this is why we want to support great companies. And this is what it's all about. I can't stress enough, as your host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportzwire Radio, the voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters. You want to support a company that has certainly gone out above and beyond its means to put on a great quality show. And this Saturday is going to be locked on. Every match is in a steel cage. Every single match. I mean, think about that. Where are you going to find a show like this? I mean, this is why you want to go out there, hit that sub button, hit that Patreon page, hit that Redbubble store. Just do it. I'm telling you, you're going to certainly really, really want it here. I want to say hello here to Jackie Chan. I don't know if that's really Jackie Chan. I want to say hello to a man that we had on Sunday who was in Resurrection Wrestling once upon a time, Mr. James Taylor. James Taylor is here. James is in our Hall of Fame. And James, I know, obviously had a match with Cameron Cage. We actually spoke quite a bit of it. And obviously, James was praising Resurrection, and we obviously had a great conversation about that. King Rage was a part of it. So, James Taylor's a free agent out there. Maybe he'll be the open challenge.
Maybe.
You never know. I mean,
very
James
well could
Taylor,
be.
I mean, he knows the destination. He knows Growlers. I mean,
he knows where it's at. The doors are open, man. Come on.
You know what?
We'll tear it down.
I would love to see him in Resurrection. There's obviously some talk about TBW. We spoke about TBW. Maybe he goes back to TBW. It seems like there's that possibility, which I think people are excited about.
Yeah,
there's a company in Alabama that there's some talk about, but it seems like TBW legitimately, at least when I post on Instagram, TBW guys like the post. They like the clip. It seems like that there's a line of communication. I would love to see that. I would love to see him in Resurrection. I think that he would add a lot. Obviously, never say never, like you say. And I think that, people love his following, his base. He was our first member of our 5th class. We love James Taylor. And, speaking of it, I had to ask you this last question. Well, I got 2 more questions, but before I get to closing thoughts here, I wanted to ask you this question. Obviously we have this thing here called the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, and we've inducted a slew of people. James Taylor's in it, Omen Black is in it, Soldier GP, Darkron, Matthew Forsaken. And I was kind of wondering here, would you ever be interested in wanting to be in a Hall of Fame? Because I think your career is pretty worthy. I look at your resume. I look at all the accomplishments here. You've been a world champion countless times, the only Grand Slam winner in Resurrection history, and you've done it all: underground, pro, indie, who knows what else in between in a bag of chips, is downtown Julie Brown, you say. But, if I were to ask you, would you like to take your place in history in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, alongside the likes of a guy, Dean Allmark, who only defeated Jushin Thunder Liger and Brian Danielson. RPD, the only person in the entire country of Britain to have won a boxing world championship and a wrestling world championship. Luke Leyland, who fought in Dambe, the only person in Britain to have ever fought in Dambe in Nigeria for the African Warriors Fighting Championship. James Taylor, the Nemesis, his 103,000 followers. I mentioned Omen Black, Soldier GP, Josh Allen, TBW owner, Josh
Absolutely.
Fletcher, XCW owner. So I have to ask Justin Parsley, Chris Jones, also of XCW. Would you, and Jackson Law, everybody knows Jackson Law. Jackson Law is one of the most well-traveled men in the sport. So I have to ask, with all those big stars I mentioned, Ronnie Brady, the West Memphis Kid, would you want to take your place before WrestleMania into the Sportswire Radio's Hall of Fame?
Absolutely, 100%. It'd be something that lasts forever. Like, because that's why we put it out. Because even long after we're gone, someone can find it. That's the point, is that you make your mark no matter how big or how small. And it'd be great to be inducted into a Hall of Fame. I mean, I've done a lot. That's probably like the one thing I haven't done has been in the Hall of Fame.
And I knew that because I was looking at him. You know, here's a guy that's won numerous championships. Here's a guy that's had his own promotions. Here's a guy that's done it all. Here's a guy that's been there and legitimately has had some success at the pro level, and he's not been in the Hall of Fame. And I was like, you know what? Since we started this Hall of Fame, and I have said basically very humbly that, you know, in baseball, they have a Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. Football, they have a Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. Basketball, they have a Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts. Get the picture? But wrestling has a Hall of Fame now in Sportswire Radio.
Absolutely.
All wrestling has a Hall of Fame. And I'm thinking this West Memphis kid, Ronnie Brady, to me, would be one of the perfect candidates that we can induct into the Hall of Fame sometime
It would be an absolute honor.
Well, you can say, consider that done. And I'm glad Steven Silvestri agrees. Before I ask you one more question, James Taylor has a question. He asked that there was something that may have happened. He wants to do business with you guys, and he wants to know, is everything good with you guys, basically?
So at the time, a lot of things were being told to us incorrectly. Information was being fed wrong from multiple sources. Myself and other people were being given misinformation.
Okay.
That you, Mr. Taylor, had an issue with the way we do things here at Resurrection. Whether or not that was true, that was what was given to me, was information from third parties. It wasn't from you directly. It was from other people being like, well, this is what he said to me. And well, it was never brought to my attention, so I can't correct a problem that I don't even know exists. And I'm more than willing to talk and fix the problem. The issue is, there's one thing you can always do, is you can always have a second chance. There's never enough time for a second chance.
Absolutely.
I don't mind to forgive and forget and move forward professionally. Like, I have no problem with that.
All right. Well, you know what? And I look at it like this. I mean, you know, the Ultimate Warrior came back to WWE. I mean, Hogan came back so many times, and I feel like that with James Taylor. Everything I know about James is that he's always been a stand-up guy. He's always been very gracious with his time, and to me, he has been absolutely very generous with his time, and he has always, to me, been a class act, and I've gotten a chance to know him, and, you know, I would definitely vouch for him any day of the week. So I'm glad to hear, because I'm a big James Taylor fan, just like I'm a big fan of Resurrection Wrestling. So I love hearing that. And he also wanted to say, never had an issue. I would never have faced Cameron Cage that day if I had an issue. And he praised Cameron Cage here last week on the show. I mean, and I want to say Cameron Cage, I would hope to see him in Resurrection as well. I know, obviously, we'll see what the future is. Obviously, he had issues with Adrian Prince, and that was his last match before he came back with Dustin Alexander. But I love Cameron Cage. That's another guy that I want to induct in the Hall of Fame. I'm going to make that happen next month. And I would love to see Cameron Cage back. And I said it on the air. I would love to see Cameron Cage and James Taylor run it back in Resurrection. And both guys.
It'd be great. It'd be great to see my man Cam Cage back. And Mr. Taylor, I mean, like I said, also my DMs are open too.
Yep.
You can hop in and we'll squash this issue.
Good.
And go forward.
I love that. No, I love that.
I don't have a problem. Like, company people keep, like, you can't, sometimes you just can't choose your friends, and some people
I worked in the world of politics. I can tell you that there's a lot. I know things happen. There's manipulation. I get it. Just somebody
misinformation is the name of the game. People are always going to try to tear somebody down.
I totally agree, and I agree. I'm so happy that we end it like this, and the Nemesis back in the Resurrection ring. Yes, I second that, and I would love to see that happen. And James Taylor in our Hall of Fame. You're going to be in our Hall of Fame. Cameron Cage going to be in our Hall of Fame. I would love to see those guys have a rematch because to me, I feel like that they only scratched the surface. They were so good for each other, perfect opponents. They were, really spoke a lot about each other when they were on the show, and I definitely would love to see that. But again, that everything works out. But let me ask you one more question before closing thoughts. You've done a lot of things in your career. You've done a lot of that anybody in this sport would wish to have. Is there one or two moments in your career that stands out most?
Well, definitely thinking back, the first time I wrestled outside of my first company, BCW, I wrestled for CHWA at Best in the Backyard years and years ago in a big six-man match for defending my title at the time, the BCW World Title. And it was a great time. It was like one of the most memorable experiences of my life because at that point I had never not wrestled for my promotion. That's one of them. And then watching this company right here, Resurrection Grow, has just been phenomenal. Like it's been one of the best times of my life. Yeah, it's stressful. Yeah, there's a lot going on, but it's
Sure.
just been the perfect storm, and only way we have is to go up. That's
That's it.
literally it.
That's it. I always live by the expression that a rising tide always lifts all boats, meaning that from what you do is going to make sure the other people around you also do well. And I've always been a believer in that. The way you carry yourself, the way you conduct yourself, and you've done that. You've been a mentor to so many people that have come on the show. You've been a locker room leader. You've been somebody that's led the way. And that's why, to me, it's no coincidence that Resurrection Wrestling has had the success that it's had, that has the people like Jimmy Controversy, Mikey Anarchy, Mac 10 here. That's why we're in big venues coming up at Growlers. And
Absolutely.
that's why we're only going to get even bigger from here. The sky is the limit. You guys are going to keep pressing on. I definitely second that from D'Angelo LaFlame. And also, yes, we'll see about Gold Dragon and Taylor. That's certainly a dream possibility. A lot of dream matches I'd love to see with James Taylor, and I would love to see that. But I know in between, before we sign off, February 17th, this Saturday, just about 36 hours away from now, lockdown at Growlers. All you have
Absolutely.
to do, if you want to buy a ticket, message either through Resurrection Pro Wrestling, YouTube, TikTok, Resurrection Wrestling. Go on that Patreon page. Go out and hit that sub button, that follow, donate, Resurrection Pro Wrestling. Also, Redbubble store. Show your way of support. Only $5 and up. Like I said, you go out there, you go to Burger King, it's going to cost twice that. You go fill up a
Absolutely.
tank of gas, forget about that. You want to go out and take the missus to dinner, forget about that. You can do something for the family, and you can have a great time and create long-lasting memories with some of the biggest up-and-coming talent in this sport by going this Saturday and buying a ticket. And I endorse this show. It's a show here that we're proud to say Resurrection Wrestling Month is on all platforms. I'm proud that I'm going to induct you into our Hall of Fame next month. I'm
Absolutely.
proud that D'Angelo LaFlame is coming back on the show. I'm proud of so many people that come on here. I think that Ronnie pretty much answered this question. So obviously, it's been an absolute honor. We're going to definitely redo this again when it comes to the ceremony. And I hope you like my speech because I'm actually doing like these long 8, 9, 10-minute speeches. I'm going to have to really work on yours because I did. James was like 9 minutes. We had Sean Jovi's. He was like 12 or 13 minutes. But it has been absolute honor. I
I mean,
now
I
want
can,
to.
I can answer that question because I
All
don't
right,
think
go
I
ahead.
have answered that
Absolutely.
question. My favorite match that I've ever had, like, I mean, yeah, that was
Oh,
a memorable one for sure, but my favorite match I've ever had was probably, yeah, it was probably Retribution facing Jack Spade. Like we'd been in our, we'd
the
followed,
history there, the
we'd
video
been next to
montage.
each other for years and years, and just to be able to like close that chapter with him there was fantastic. It's a memory I'll always hold dear.
History, the group, the championships. I mean, it was definitely, watching that match and seeing it how it all unfolded. I could definitely see it, and to do it on a big stage, to do it in a venue, to see where you guys had come up a long
Yeah,
way. Yeah, there's definitely that emotional and personal connection. And thank you for that great question, Ethan. I only said in the interest of your time because you're a very busy man, but
yeah,
obviously I want to give you the floor now, give you some closing thoughts, and I can't wait to do this again sometime next month, and we'll figure out a date after we get off the air. But
absolutely.
until then, I would like to give you the floor. Anything else you'd like to plug, share, or say? And definitely, this has been an honor. And I turn it over to you now and fire away.
Go like and subscribe, Resurrection YouTube. Follow me on Instagram, WMK96. Go find my personal YouTube, the WMK Ronnie Brady. I mean, I don't really have much else to say. We've pretty much covered everything. Like,
That's what I try to do on Sportswire. We
yeah,
pretty much like,
I've had a good time. We've had a great time here, and I can't wait to do it again.
oh,
And
I
thank you
love
for
it.
having me.
Oh, both. No, thank you, actually. Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, Joseph Tibbs. And thank you to the locker room for being so gracious working with Sportswire and being a part of All Wrestling Matters and supporting us. Because I would like to say, I want to support those that support us. You guys have been, a huge hallmark in that. Obviously, the XCW guys, the IMF guys, the DKW guys, the DBW guys, the VTW guys, the ROEW guys. I mean, all you guys have just been
Absolutely,
so phenomenal. The WCE guys, I have to throw them in there. But the point is, it's about All Wrestling Matters. You want to follow Ronnie Brady? Here's the links. And before we go here, yes, thank you, Steven, for that. That means a lot. And yes, and I agree that you have been a locker room leader. You have been a voice that is helping all these great talents. I think about Jacoby. I think about D'Angelo. I think about Gold Dragon. I think about Raid. I think about Silvestri. I think about Cage. Everybody else here. And thank you, Brady. Yes, amen to that. Thank you for the podcast, for your support, Ethan. And my friends, it's been an absolute honor. I can't wait the next time to do this, to call you
absolutely,
eventually a Sportswire Radio Hall of Famer and give you that nice little speech and everything else. We do a couple of different things for you. I look forward to doing that. And thank you so much. I can't wait to watch the show Saturday. I can't wait to
absolutely,
talk about the next day with D'Angelo. He's our lucky participant to talk about it. And thank you for all that you do. Thank you for everything you do for this sport. And congratulations on all the success. We're watching you very closely here in this open challenge. We'll see what happens and everything else. And I look forward to doing this again next month. And thank you for your
absolutely.
support.
Thank
All
you.
right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the West Memphis Kid, Ronnie Brady, the only Grand Slam winner in Resurrection Wrestling history. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters. If you're on sportswireradio.org, you're going back to your regularly scheduled programming. If you're on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, I'll be back 2 times tomorrow, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, first with Carl Radulovich and also Necro Daddy, Jay Carnage, Chris Levitt, and then I'll be back here sometime between 9 and 10 o'clock with Joe Stone versus Freddie Daniels, then a slew of IMF, WC, DKW stars and others for King of the Center. But until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters.